So I was really looking forward to this game, but I am not looking forward to this review. You see, I think that there's going to be people who like certain aspects of this game and dislike other ones. And of course, that's like any other game. But I think with this game specifically, there are some real make or break issues with this one. And of course, there's going to be people who just think it's okay. But unfortunately, I believe I'm in that group that does find some of these issues to be make or break. And so today we're going to talk about Dark Deity 2. But before we get into that, wait, don't turn your brain off. I know what you're thinking. Hey, he's about to go into his whole spiel about like, subscribe, all that stuff. No. That's not what I'm about to say. So I was going to tell you guys that for about a week now, YouTube has been using AI to determine how old you are. And they will go through and just see what videos you watch, and with that, it determines your age. So if you're like me, and you love 90s Nickelodeon, real nostalgia there, you know, Hey Arnold, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Doug, great stuff. Anyway, sometimes I watch it on YouTube. So YouTube's AI might think that I'm a child. Well, this can happen to all of us. So the main thing to do to make sure that your account has not been compromised is just to go up to your account on the top of the page and make sure that restrictions are turned off. Because that's essentially what the AI does, is it just goes through and turns on restrictions. But you can easily turn them off. That's the first thing that you can do. The second thing to make sure that your account is working is to make sure you go down and hit the like and subscribe button on mine. Okay, you don't actually have to do the whole like and subscribe thing, but you know, hey, maybe do it because you like my little gaming channel, or you think, hey, this guy's helping me keep YouTube out my business. You know, any of those things would be a good reason. But anyway, let's get on to the video. Let's talk about Dark Deity 2. So for those of you who don't know, Dark Deity 2 is a strategy RPG, much like Final Fantasy Tactics or Triangle Strategy, where you have like that grid-based battlefield, and you set up your team by choosing formation, choosing classes, or even who's actually allowed to deploy on the specific battle. All of that stuff is pretty standard with strategy RPGs. Now, the one thing I will say about this game, specifically with gameplay and combat, for me anyway, it felt like some of the characters and classes were kind of limited. Now, I do know that this game was made with Game Maker, which is software that you can even get on the Switch, I believe. So the fact that they made this game with, say, less advanced software is pretty awesome. And I don't even know if it contributes to the fact that some of the classes to me seem limited, but if it does, I get it, I understand, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it actually didn't really bother me that much, but it was something I definitely noted. But I also want to be clear, I didn't play through every class or even take the classes as far as they could go. I kind of rushed through this game, but I did beat the game, and so getting your characters to the point you can beat the game and you still feel a little limited, I don't know, it's just something I noted. Like I said, it really didn't bother me. The gameplay itself and the combat is simplistic, but it's also fun. I mean, it's a good strategy RPG. If you like something, it's a little bit more stripped down. There is still a lot of equipment, rings, and things of that nature that do keep things fresh. Will say, items, and healing items specifically, though, are something that are really difficult to get a hold of, or I should say they're really difficult to find characters who use any healing items. Like, basically you have your healer, and I believe there's one or two other characters who can use healing abilities as well, but if you don't have any of them around and you're taking massive damage, you're just kind of done for. And what is kind of cool is when you do die in the game, your characters aren't dead forever, but they do suffer a penalty that will be applied the next battle. Things like they might be slower, have less defense, less ability to attack, that kind of thing. I think it was definitely a really cool idea. I also liked how they actually mentioned what happened to the character, like a collapsed lung or a broken arm, that kind of thing. It's just kind of cool. Another really important thing to talk about with the combat is that there are options that you have, and these basically determine how each battle is set up or the gameplay that you have through each campaign. And these two options are unlimited turns or a limited amount of turns. And essentially, this works exactly how it sounds. Like, in the unlimited turns, you can basically keep playing until you either win or your team is wiped out. Meanwhile, if you choose the limited amount of turns, you only have that many turns to like win the battle or it's game over. And I do think the game is meant to be played with the limited turns turned on, but I honestly didn't. I didn't feel like the combat to me was at a place where I needed that extra difficulty. It just was fun as it was. Even though, again, like I said, it's a little simplistic, it was still engaging enough to keep me interested in the game. The one thing that didn't keep me interested in the game, though, was the story. And that for me is a make or break issue, because have you ever walked in on the middle of a conversation and you kind of had an idea what people were talking about, but you weren't 100% sure? That is so many ways like this story. You eventually get all the details, or at least a lot of the details, but they spoon feed them to you as if you were supposed to kind of know, but then, like, the game recognizes that you don't, so they tell you more. But my issue was half the time I would forget what they had told me, a chapter or two ago, and so I was really just confused to the point that I had to go online and actually look up some specifics about the story and the dynamics of the world that this game takes place in. And oddly enough, I do think that there's people who are actually going to enjoy that, because what it means is there is a lot less like narrative speak in the game. There is a lot less storytelling. There is a lot of dialogue that is actually pretty entertaining. A lot of the dialogue between the characters is pretty good, actually, and I did appreciate that. But as far as like storytelling, setting the stage, building the environment, I felt like they didn't do a great job of it. But I do want to note this. I liked triangle strategy. A lot of people did not like triangle strategy. They said that there was way too much reading, too much dialogue in the game, and it ruined it for them. But for me, I really like the political intrigue. I love that one group's actions might implicate something to another group, and you're sort of guessing what's going to happen, the power dynamics that happen, the whole, Game of Thrones, Witcher kind of atmosphere. And the thing that I have to be clear about is this game definitely has the components to do that. And in fact, it sort of does. As the game is winding down, you start to see the bigger picture, which for me just made me think like, oh man, I would have enjoyed this journey a lot more had I known a little bit more about this environment. The one thing that people will not be torn on is the music. The music in this game is awesome. I mean, the composer just did an amazing job with this game, and I think that the score matches all the environments, and even like it builds upon it. I just absolutely love the music. I think that as far as this game goes, the music has got to be one of the best things about it. I also really love the visuals. I love some of the fight animations, how when you're squaring off with somebody else, you'll have a close-up of the two combatants. I just think that looks really fun as well. And the fact that there are no performance issues, I had no lag, I never had the game crash, none of that happened with this one, and it all comes in at about $20. So you see, for me, when I added all this up, it's a good game. But for some reason, I just wasn't able to get into it, and I think so much of it is the actual storytelling. I wasn't really sure what was going on, and so it didn't allow me to really develop that connection with the game. But on the other hand, I'll be the first to admit that it might just be a me problem, and maybe I just didn't vibe with this game, because I openly admit that like the dialogue between a lot of the characters is really entertaining. A lot of the characters are really likable. There is a ton to enjoy about this game, and honestly, I don't need every game to just put everything out on a plate for me. But I don't know, for some reason it was just really difficult for me to keep up with the story and to keep everything in my memory. But taking a step back, looking at it objectively, seeing that the combat is kind of on the simple side. Like I said, the story I felt like could have been told in a much more digestible manner. I ultimately would give this game a 7 out of 10. And I think if you're into strategy RPGs or Fire Emblem specifically, I think you're going to like this game quite a bit. Even if not, maybe the thing that turns you off about some of those is the massive amount of storytelling. Well, lucky for you, that's not in this game. But that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you played this one? Are you excited about this one? Have you played the first Dark Deity? Anything and everything in the comment section down below. By the way, if you are seeing this before Friday, let me know what you think is going to show up at the Nintendo Direct, what you're excited for in that. What games are you playing? Any and all of your comments are so much appreciated. I love each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Bye.